Hello and welcome to Legalese. My name is Vince Perryman and I'm a local attorney with the law offices of J. Vincent Perryman. Each month, Legalese focuses on a wide range of legal issues and topics. Today's show covers alternatives to litigation in family law cases. With us now are local attorneys Laurie Hall and Bill Jones. Thanks for being with us today, guys. When people think about family law, they always think, oh, well, this is going to require litigation, we're going to have to go into a court system and get everything done. And I think that that's somewhat of a misnomer, and it's kind of exciting that there are alternatives to this. And I know each of you practice in different areas of those alternatives, one being collaborative divorce and another being mediation. And you both obviously do the litigation side of divorce and family law, which entails so much more than just simply divorce. And I guess to start off, Laurie, you're the one that is the collaborative sort of expert, if you will, and that generally I think occurs prior to most of the other areas. So if you could just start off talking a little bit about collaborative divorce.
Sure. Well, collaborative law is basically a process by which the parties and their attorneys commit to resolving disputed issues and reaching a full settlement on all issues without ever going to court. So it certainly can be used in the midst of a divorce. It can also be something that parties do post-divorce, or for parents that were never married but have children together. So it's a client-centered approach, and one in which really the parties are in control.
Okay, and now, Bill, you do mediation as well, which is, when it comes to family law, it's got to be a Rule 31 mediator.
Yeah, that's Tennessee Supreme Court Rule 31. It just says that we've complied with the training guidelines set forth by the state.
Okay, and now with mediation, what exactly, you know, we hear mediation and most people say, well, I have no idea what that is.
Sure. You know, my instructor, Jean Monroe, she said that the mediation is the most dignified way that two parties can divorce. What it really does is it empowers the party to make their own decisions. It puts the divorce back into their hands. You think about it, you're only going to talk to a judge, you know, 3 hours, 3 days. They're not going to know your background and your facts. In a mediation, it's about the two parties who know each other, who knows what motivates each other, them sitting down with each other, and them saying, this is how we're going to decide. We're going to decide where our kids are going to wake up Christmas morning, not a judge that doesn't know our situation. And it really, if both parties are willing to give just a little bit, then both parties generally walk away with a lot more, or maybe not more, but a better result than 9 out of 10 times what they get in the courtroom.
Okay. Now, I think one of the most interesting things about some of this is how these different areas, they overlap and interplay on one another. And I know with mediation generally, both parties are represented by an attorney, and you've got a neutral, which is the mediator there. And now the collaborative divorce, it has always been interesting to me because you're represented by attorneys, but all of this is occurring before anything is actually filed with a court of law. How does that process work, Laurie?
Well, that's right. What would occur is that a party or the parties together would decide that they want to go the collaborative approach instead of going the traditional litigation model and hiring an attorney and running out and filing a complaint for divorce. So the individual would contact an attorney who's been specially trained in the collaborative process to represent them. In order for the process to work, both parties ultimately need to hire attorneys who have been trained in this process. So the parties do need to get together and communicate about their agreement to participate in the collaborative process versus going to court.
Okay, now how do they find attorneys that are trained in this process?
The best way to find an attorney who's been trained is to use the internet. And for instance, Memphis has the Memphis Collaborative Alliance website that people can go to. It has a list of all the attorneys in Memphis who have been trained in collaborative practice. So I think it really, the internet is the best resource rather than just calling up attorneys' offices and asking them.
Okay. Well, now, if a couple is looking at a divorce or, or one of the other issues that is appropriate for collaborative law to be used, how do they figure out whether or not collaborative law would be appropriate?
Well, as long as there's a commitment between the parties to resolve whatever disputed issues they have without going to court, then collaborative law would be an appropriate way to handle that. I mean, really, there are very few instances in which it would not be appropriate to go the collaborative approach, and that would be if one of the parties is significantly impaired, some sort of addiction or mental illness, or if there's been some pretty substantial physical abuse, then it wouldn't be appropriate because of the imbalance of power between the parties. But even if every issue is in dispute, as long as the parties commit that we're going to take this avenue and do this in an alternative way and in a way that really is best for the children if they have children, or it really to best preserve their assets, because ultimately collaborative law is cheaper than the traditional litigation method, then the collaborative approach is appropriate.
Okay. Now, with that, I think there's some statistics out there that about 90% of the collaborative law cases do get to a settlement. If they, and I think this is an issue that comes up as far as the attorneys that represented the parties in the collaborative realm, whether they can continue to represent the parties if litigation is filed. And I think we're about to run out of time with the segment, so if you can address that just very quickly.
Sure. Well, that's correct. Part of the reason collaborative process works is that the parties do agree with the attorneys on the front end that they will work to reach an agreement, and that if they're unable to do so, then they have to hire new attorneys.
Okay. When we return, we will continue our discussion about alternatives to litigation in family law cases. Please stay with us.